because it's the silly, stupid, fascinating, weird, wonderful. They're my people, and more often than not, they're the geeky people as well.
I mentioned Betamax. For anybody older, that's the old version of a video cassette. Video cassette is an old version of a DVD. A DVD is an old set of the clouds. Hello, welcome to another episode of Faith and Geekery. My name is Mark and
Becca!
This is Becca. Welcome, whether you are new to us, old to us, or just so with us. This is a place of chat, of conversation, of exploration, of geeky things, of nerdy things, of hobbies and interests. And as we delve into these fascinating things, we also kind of sprinkle a little bit of faith in there, or reflect to sort of say, does it go any deeper? Does this kind of interests really kind of delve into our psyche, into our soul, or are they just fun? And so with that, I would like to introduce our guest for tonight. Our guest is who, Becca?
It's you, Mark.
Hello.
It's you.
Wrong way. So as an ongoing theme for those who are listeing, Becca and I still haven't got over the fact that we are streaming from different locations and we can pretend to look at each other as if it's in the Brady Bunch. So we're going to go hello and wave at each other as if we're really there. And yes, really, this is how
Becca will get her left and right wrong every time.
Indeed. And first of all, we don't obviously start off with kind of introducing our guests, but yes, it is just us this evening, so it's a bit of a chilled and me. Oh yes, and then
and you, dear listener, viewer, watcher, consumer of what and who this is.
Yeah, I've also realised I normally have like a little bit of paper that reminds me what order of things that we go in.
Mark is looking off screen and rustling some paper.
Yes, I found it now. Huzzah! So it
Mark
is well.
holds his hand up in the air with a look of joy.
I think that's just a little bit patronising, isn't it? A little bit harsh. But we tend to ask the first question as we gather, what geeky things have you been up to this week? Becca, and also guests, viewers, people,
listeners.
What we've been up to. Listeners, thank you. There was a word in there somewhere. Becca, are you feeling all right?
Right. In my defence, any strange noises that come from my snug are actually the dog. Any noises from henceforth.
Viewers and listeners, dog. She has no dog.
I do. Yes, he will eventually come here and then non-consensually lick right into my face.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It won't be good.
We'll await that. So, feel free to comment on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, and there's obviously Discord as well, but we don't tend to read that live because we're busy people and we're trying to juggle 101 things or just one single thought, which feels a bit like tonight for me. But hurrah, I've got no technical problems tonight as yet. And what have you been up to geeky wise, Becca?
What have I done?
Any ukulele playing?
No, I've been MasterChefing. I've been binge watch MasterChefing.
Oh, is that the professionals or is that the
yes, the professionals.
Cool.
There is a lot of splitting sauces with oil that looks absolutely stunning. So that'll be my next thing. It looks really pretty. So they have contrasting oils with whatever sauce they've brought to the table. Really?
Cool.
There's no need for any of this, Ozzy.
Becca says to the dog.
Becca says to the dog, looking as though it really is in the room.
Yeah.
He is in the room. He's delightful.
Oh,
What about
yes.
you, Marky Stennett?
I have been building a TARDIS, or continuing to build a TARDIS. I'm not there yet, and I was chatting to my family over lunchtime, tea time yesterday, and I was mentioning about the Doctor Who's anniversary on Thursday, and my son kind of went, "It's only on Thursday. You've got a lot of TARDIS to make, Dad, before then." And I was like, "No, I'm going in the window of the 60th anniversary for when we're going to do our anniversary Doctor Who special as well. So that's going to be in a couple of weeks, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And so it's going to be within the general window, like the window of Christmas, the window of the anniversary of
We
within
should have
the.
had a calendar countdown.
It's fine. It's fine. So there is a lot more of the TARDIS to be built, but I think I've actually shared a photo in Geeky News a little bit later. Sorry, Geeky News, should I say?
Geeky news.
Yes, it's broadly been that. I've been listening to lots of podcasts. So I've been into that again, but kind of that's cool.
Nice.
So cool. Shall we move on to Geeky News?
Let us move on to Geeky News. Tell us. Preach forth,
Well, it's
dear
a
friend.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, welcome to Geeky News and Welcome to Geeky News. First of all, the actor Joss Ackland has unfortunately passed away yesterday at the grand age of 95. Two of the most famous films that he's been in is Mighty Ducks, as well as Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey as the baddie in that one. Next in the news, talking about films, is The Grinch 2, ? There is speculation and ponderment that, yes, the great Jim Carrey is going to return to his famous role of the Grinch, and we wonder where that's going to lead. And finally, Doctor Who news, of course. There's been murmurs from Alex Kingston herself to say that River Song might return. That's all for Geeky News. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry folks, I clicked on the wrong week of Geeky News, so that's why we kind of had a bit of a dip into one and then the other, because we just felt like it. Yes, so Geeky News. First of all, Joss Ackland, do you recognise that name?
No, what I should have immediately done was go and Google it. I'm going to go and Google Joss Ackland.
He is the baddie in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey of Denomalus. And he's also in Hunt for Red October. He's in Lethal Weapon 2. I'm looking at IMDb, by the way. He's also the Black Rabbit in Watership Down. So he's kind of historically a big in film, but I think you've got to know the character that he plays in order for it to ring true. So that was quite a biggie. I was like, oh well, not a biggie, but I was quite surprised that it kind of passed me by, and it was just like, oh, that's a bit of a shame, But dare I say, when you kind of reach a grand age of 95, then that's quite a good innings, really. Then there's the other bits of news of the Grinch 2. And that's only just kind of
where that's going. I mean,
yeah, well, does he save Christmas again, but this time from somebody else? I don't know. It was just something that came up, and I was like, "Oh, that's really fascinating." But
I'm a Jim Carrey fan. There's very few things that I've seen of Jim Carrey where I haven't giggled pretty much all the way through, and it is a Jim Carrey movie when you watch it. I'm trying to think of ones that I've not liked.
I was going to say best character for Jim Carrey.
Ace Ventura. that was what broke me into Jim Carrey. I think I still quote Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber accidentally all the time, and I just don't realise that that's who I'm doing.
was going to say, I feel as if Ace Ventura has kind of lost its way a little bit, hasn't it? Because actually rewatching it and kind of seeing some of the jokes that it references, I think they're a little bit kind of no longer. I think there's kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not
I
aged
think
well.
no, but that's probably not the humor about Jim Carrey that I like. I like the slapstick.
Yeah, that's true.
I like the way that he plays with facial expression and sounds. So it's the physical comedy that he does. Partly because I wouldn't remember the kind of the edgy jokes that he might bring in that offend, because I just wouldn't remember how to retell them at the time. So what I remember is sound and nuance and the slapstick nature of it, and the things that make me cringe with the physical comedy, like some of the Dumb and Dumber stuff. Exactly.
I've just put a banner on, folks, saying really. For me, I think The Mask was kind of quite telltale. That was the first one that got me into Jim Carrey. But then also kind of, it's kind of impressive, his range, isn't it? And the ability to kind of do things like Truman Show, to do kind of the Riddler, which, was kind of just within bounds of.
It was a comic book Riddler rather than a Hollywood movie Riddler. And so I was absolutely okay with that.
But then seeing some of his early stuff, dare I say, on TikTok, where he kind of he pretends to be Clint Eastwood, and I think he actually does it in Bruce Almighty as well, doesn't he? Where he looks in the mirror and he's like, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" I'm not even going to pretend to do it, but it's. It's just really good. Physical comedy, as you say. So so it's just interesting to see kind of like a big name and somebody who we've not recently seen again on film. Is it a good thing for kind of all more established actors to come back into a role? Debatable. And but then again, moving straight onto that news to River Song, and again that was Alex Kingston saying, there might be a return of River Song, which if The Grinch I'm not sure about, River Song returning I'm very happy about.
Happy about a River Song rerun.
So that'll be really, really exciting. I think, especially as it feels forgive, and dare I say, I feel as if really the alongside David Tennant. And I know that's only going to be for the specials, but when potential spoilers, when she first meets him in the library, she says, "Oh, this is you really young."
Yeah,
and which is really good. But if she hasn't seen him, unless it's the audio files, if she hasn't seen that version, if it's not big audio, actually, I don't think there's another encounter. Someone prove me wrong. Where's Tim Allen when you want him to kind of correct me? To say, I don't think she actually meets him again on screen as David Tennant, and so therefore that.
No, I don't think she does.
So that reference doesn't make sense unless you reference a big audio, which I think there is a big audio, or at least one or two, where they interact as those roles, but there isn't another on-screen one. And so if
I think that's why I like River Song as a character, that what she does in terms of the timeline of the Doctor is really twist what that means for us as the viewer, and what that means in terms of her meeting him later. But I love that. I thought that was really clever, and it really emphasized the fact that he moves around in time, which when we're watching on the BBC in a very linear way, that's a really hard thing to come to understand, except especially with the nature of their relationship. So it must the weirdness is brilliant. I love it.
That's just reminded me though, and that's a really interesting fact for today, especially. Joss Ackland is the bad guy in Bill and Ted, where that was the first introduction for me about timey-wimey, because they have a final confrontation. They have a final confrontation where they say, "Oh, we've gone back in time and we've put a cage over you, ha 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 ha," and it drops on them, and then he goes, "Ah, but I've done this." And that suddenly happens. I've forgotten what it is, and then they kind of go, "Ah, but the only the victor would be able to go back in time and change it." It's a gun that he pulls out on them, and it just goes bang. It says bang, and it's got like a little flag that says bang.
Yeah.
Because actually the victors can only go back in time after we've finished, after this duel is done, to set up all these props. And that for me was the first time I really engaged with that timey-wimey messes with your head. And so, a little nod to the cap of Joss Ackland, bless him. Anyway, sorry, I just thought I'd just tie that in, because I do really love that of Doctor Who. Sometimes I think the older Doctor Who's, they've kind of gone, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly play around with time. It's part of my time frame." These later versions of Doctor Who, they're more than happy to go in around and mess around. But the old Who were always a little bit aware of this, and a bit of kind of like, "Oh no, we can't really kind of play around with our timeline."
Yes. How do you tell that? How do you show it? And it's in a way that Deadpool plays with the fourth wall. And almost comes through the screen in how he engages with us as the audience. I think River Song kind of does that in the way that she plays and reveals the nature of what time looks like when it's no longer linear. And
I think that is a really good point as well, really, because that does feel as if it's like it's something that it's like that what's it called? I'm sure there's an official word for it, where you're in on it with the audience, and it drags you in so as soon as River Song turns up on screen, even if the companion doesn't know who she is, everyone's in on it and goes, we're there because actually we know this character, even if you don't. It's just like with the Daleks as well. As soon as you hear the exterminate, we all know what's going to happen next. But the companions, they're going, "Oh, what's one of these things? Oh, it looks a little bit metal," and
I must run up the stairs.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh no! Now they levitate. I was very disappointed with that evolution. Let me tell you.
I think I remember that for the first time. I think going up the stairs. It's hilarious though, knowing behind the scenes that people physically have to carry this with a big metal pole, kind of shifting this Dalek up the stairs. Anyway, what else was I going to say? I think there was a couple of other bits which have slipped me by, because I was going to say that I filmed this stuff and then suddenly realised there were other things that I should have mentioned. Yes, I filmed that earlier today. There is the Christmas Express, which is coming out on Max or something in America, which is Tom Hanks returning as a prequel to Polar Express. And again, I was just like, so this has been bubbling away in my mind a bit with these kind of playing around and twisting and returning for sequels, prequels.
Yeah, prequels. I quite like a prequel.
Yeah. Pardon?
I quite like a prequel. I'm really looking forward to the Snake and Songbirds, Ballad of, what is it?
The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Snakes and Songbirds.
I am looking forward to that.
Yeah. But then also, we've just had Children in Need with David Tennant's nice little 5-minute skit, but it's had Davros as an able-bodied Davros, which has kind of hit the kind of Doctor Who fandom a little bit, kind of like, what's he doing? Why is he retconning this? Why has he changed it? But actually, I find it really, I don't mind it. I find it really fascinating, because Russell T Davies in the Unboxed or whatever it is, he's sort of said Unleashed. He's gone, actually, you know what? It's 2023, and we're still kind of associating villains with disabilities. And we need to move beyond that. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm more than happy for that to change, for that to kind of be different now. Because actually, I always, for me, remember James Bond, and all the baddies always had some dodgy looking kind of, thing that the attribute is like, oh, they can't just be a bad guy, they can't just be a bad person, they've got to have some disability in order for them to look even more sinister. And it's just like
women,
really harsh.
Women having to either be excessively beautiful and untouchable or old, bent nose. Did we do that? Did we talk about that last week? The worst thing a woman can do. It's in Mirror Mirror. It's in what else did I watch? Where the worst thing they can do, they can commit all these atrocities, and then the worst thing they can do is ever look old. How very dare they?
And there's that principle, isn't there? I'm just about to Google something.
Mark,
the Bechdel test, isn't it? Where you've got to, in a film nowadays, they've got to pass the Bechdel test, where basically at least two females have to have a conversation on stage, on camera, and talk about something meaningful, rather than just it being a plot hook or them just looking pretty.
Or talking about their romantic liaisons.
So they've got to kind of talk about something that genuinely grounds them, rather than just being something to look at or a plot hook. So I think we've got to move beyond that, don't we? We've got to move beyond that for women, but also for those with disabilities. It shouldn't be the fact that it's like, you're in a wheelchair, so therefore, for let's say cosplay, oh gosh, you've got to be Davros, or a kind of baddie. So anyway, so that's the way my brain has gone this week. So apologies, folks, because that has been
a little Mark brain rabbit hole.
Well, it's been chewing with me a bit, really, and again, that's where I'd kind of been thinking about the whole kind of retconning stuff, prequels, sequels, of taking something that we are used to and. Oh, there was a dog. There was a slight dog in shot there.
Did you very briefly see?
A slight shadow, at least, anyway. Audio listeners, there was a brief shadow of a dog on the screen. So yes, it's. I just find that fascinating how we can take things that are really known to us. Oh, there's definitely a dog on the show. There's a dog.
There we go. There is definitely a dog.
So it's just the way that we can take things that are known to us, that are familiar with us, and I think sometimes that's good. Sometimes fans can overreact or react badly to stuff which maybe isn't handled with as much care and attention. So we've got to be careful, and I think Star Wars is a good example of that, of taking those prequels. The very first one was not accepted well, and it's just how do we?
Binks, why?
Misa Jar Jar Binks, oh Annie.
Becca starts to visibly rock in distress.
But I find it funny because I have an ingoing joke with my wife and various members of our family that every musical should be made better by adding Jar Jar Binks as an actual character into it. I just think it would be hilarious, like Cats or Phantom of the Opera. Misa Jar Jar Binks.
No. Never. Nothing is made better by Jar Jar Binks.
Complete opposite to things like Muppet Christmas Carol, where you've got one kind of kind of Michael Caine, fantastic actor, grounded, doing it completely deadpan, surrounded by Muppets, having a whole cast of a musical doing it completely down, completely grounded and genuine, and then the main character being like Misa.
Is that not exactly what happened with the first prequel?
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, sorry, I'll move on. We'll move on very quickly and desperately. So it's just the two of us, but we're going to do a quiz. Is that right?
The two of us.
People being very quiet on comments.
Where
do
are
say hello,
you,
folks.
people?
Do say hello if you're watching, if you're viewing.
We miss you.
But let's move on. In case if no one turns up. Quiz time. I've got 5 questions for you. We should really be doing a tally, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah, we should, because I feel I need to have bragging rights at some point. Oh, we have a comment.
So Brandon has said, "Shh, I'm here for the dog." Too right. Stephen Jones as well. Hello.
Look at that. There we go.
Frank.
You are here.
Yeah, we're not just talking into the void. Question number one. Have you got pen, paper
wait,
ready?
hang on. Wait. Yeah, no, I'm opening notes. Bear with. Oh, we need to talk about Miranda at some point, I feel. Although she's not got a current show, but anyway.
No. But
okay, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm just going to drop that comment off. Right. So, question number one. Disney's animated Robin Hood film copied sequences from other Disney animations. Can you name one?
Yes.
There is technically 3 extra points if you get more than one, but I'm being nice. Can you name just one?
I think I can name 2. Okay.
Oh, Brandon's gone. Oh, in the same vein of like, yeah. Sorry, bit mean. What was that?
That was the dog. That was the dog. Can you name that? Okay.
Okay. Along the lines of pets, Captain Marvel. So this is question number 2. Captain Marvel has a pet. We know it. Well, spoiler by the way, it's a flurkin. But what is its name?
Oh no!
And I will accept one of 2 answers, whether film or comic book. So Captain Marvel has a pet, and it is a flurkin. But
can I have its disguised animal version?
What name? As in what she calls it? Yes.
No.
Or do you mean the word flurkin, which I've given you already?
No, because it doesn't look like a flurkin, does it?
No, it doesn't. No. So that's question number 2. So shall I move on to question number 3?
Yeah.
The Great British Bake Off, or in America, I think it's the Great British Baking Program or Baking Show, is in its 9th and penultimate week. What theme is it this week?
I don't know. I'm on MasterChef The Professionals. Damn it. Ozzy. Oh, he's just ruined
the dog doesn't know.
logoed school bottle.
Oh no!
No, I'm in trouble. Hang on. This could be all out Sydney War. Okay, I'm here. I'm going to guess and say something. Okay, number 4.
Question number 4. That was right, isn't it? Yeah. Question number 4. And this is again about my viewing, really. So apologies. Strictly Come Dancing was just at Blackpool Ballroom, but the Blackpool Ballroom is the same length as one of these things. Is it the longest measured lion's mane jellyfish, the longest blue whale, or the siphonophore, which is like an underwater, midnight kind of zone level kind of creature? Shall I give you the feet of them just in case? 120 feet. I should have done this in length order, but never mind. Lion's mane jellyfish is 120 feet. The longest recorded blue whale is 110 feet, and the siphonophore is 150 feet.
Okay, right. I've got a guess.
Cool. It's about measurements, really, but I thought it was a bit more exciting, so I googled kind of really random, obscure long distances. And then question number 5. And again, maybe this was kind of unconsciously about Bake Off. According to the Women's Institute, how many eggs traditionally go into a Victoria sponge? So according to the WI website, Women's Institute website, how many eggs go into a traditional recipe for a Victoria sponge?
Because it's you double the other ingredients by the egg. So if you do 4 eggs, it's 8 ounces of.
I can't give anything away.
I'm trying
Really.
to think.
Or I shouldn't.
What's the diameter of a traditional Victoria sponge?
It's been really exciting about Googling it if you like to.
I reckon it's an 8-inch tin.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, it is an 8-inch tin.
Can I get an extra point for knowing that?
No.
Oh, come on.
But
How
anyway.
would I do for not? Okay.
If it's any consolation, they use the weight of the eggs as the measure for everything else.
Oh, interesting. And then you double by the weight of the eggs.
It's just the weight of the eggs. It says the weight of the eggs in butter, the weight of the eggs in castor sugar, and the weight of the eggs in self-raising flour. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try that.
Well, I guess the eggs are the one kind of or egg is the one kind of measurement that you can't kind of work out. It's not a universal measure, is it? So they use that as the reference point.
That makes really good sense. Rather than trying to.
The dog is licking Becca's hair.
I said it would be.
So I think that's everything. Folks, how are you doing with the quiz questions? As if someone's going to speak out. Oh, we're doing well.
We're doing so well. I know all the answers.
Yeah.
Especially for Brandon, who culturally is completely out of it, really.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's yeah. Great, he's put. So, question number 1. Should I just go with the answers, or do you want to guess them?
Winnie the Pooh, Sword in the Stone. Can't remember the other.
Brendan has put, I am Groot.
No, you cannot give that as an answer for everyone. But if we ever have a guess
say yours again, Becca. Sorry.
Winnie the Pooh, Sword in the Stone.
Right, congratulations. You've got neither of those correct.
I'm sure they're
so in the Robin Hood copied sequences, they're taken from 3 films. One is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, especially with Snow White dancing is the one where Maid Marian dances. Jungle Book is there because obviously Baloo and with
I'm totally taking that
Little
point.
John. Yeah, go on then.
I said it.
And yes, you did. And the Aristocats, which was only out 3 years earlier. So I don't have that one on.
Something else then uses those scenes, the Winnie the Pooh and the Sword in the Stone. I don't know what they are. Okay.
Yeah. It could be
right. I'll count that as 1 point. 1 point to Becca. Well done, me.
Okay. So question number 2 is Captain Marvel's pet. What is the name of the Flurkin?
Is it called Cat?
No, it isn't, I'm afraid. So interestingly, in the comic books, it's Chewie. But I think that's a Star Wars reference. But at the time, they didn't have Disney. Disney didn't have Star Wars. No, they must have done it. Anyway, they went with Goose from Top Gun as a Top Gun reference.
Nice.
So you could have Chewie or Goose. Question number 3, Bake Off. What week is it?
Is it Bread Week?
No, I'm afraid that was a long time ago. It is Patisserie Week.
I did nearly say Pastry Week.
That was last week. So again, different. Oh no, sorry. Party was last week. I think it was the week before that. Then question number 4, Blackpool Ballroom.
I went with the lion's mane jellyfish.
That was correct.
Yay!
Yeah. And maybe that was a bit of a giveaway that was the very first question at a different length as the other 2. But
no, I don't think that's a giveaway at all. No, I think I got that on sheer guesswork.
Absolutely. On knowledge, on just,
knowledge. That wasn't a guess at all.
Then finally, Women's Institute, how many eggs go into a traditional?
I went with 6 eggs. It might be a lot, is it not?
3.
Well, that was my other choice. Right. 6 eggs would be quite a large cake. I'd probably do that for a 10-inch cake, if I'm honest.
That was according to the WI. That's interesting as well because it says 3 medium eggs weighed in their shells. And so that
Oh,
kind of
and
that,
then
yeah. That's
Oh,
fascinating.
very interesting.
But anyway, and again, folks, give us send us a message to tell us how well you did. And again, this quiz is always there just as a bit of entertainment, but it's also to remind us the breadth and kind of random nature of our hobbies and interests, and how kind of they can vary, and how we can delve a bit deeper and just be passionate about these things.
Was it 0?
So Stephen Jones has commented a nice round number for me. And Brandon has put, I was working on making a 16-inch cake, it seems. Also 6 eggs. That's fascinating. So cool. Shall we move on to Geeky Gallery?
Oh, yes.
And then coming up to here. Whoops. And let's do it that way around. And then Geeky Gallery, Mendip Nomad. This is some pictures from kind of some games, some the Warhammer, is it 40,000? But then also, Mendip had said about somebody losing a load of his kind of collectibles. Was it in a car, or it'd been pinched from a car?
It was
or
in a
something
roof
like that.
box on the car.
Yeah, and so we've been putting together just to contribute to someone's, and that's a really lovely sentiment, is it? So we've got pictures of like a couple of war scenes of fighting Warhammer stuff, as well as some minis that have been repainted, which look like the Judge Dredd type ones from last week. But they look pretty cool still anyway. That'd be nice to pass on to a friend in need. We then have Gog, who is relatively new to the community, but has been talking about, I think these are quite interesting kind of role play things with a faith theme. So end times, heavenly hosts, heroes of the heavenly hosts, as well as play testing a bit of the Bible adventure. I can't quite read that adventure series, the Bible. So that looks quite fascinating. And then Lydia, friend of the show, she's making, is it a FIMO Christmas tree with lots of different kind of shaded colours. I'm assuming it's a Christmas tree, and maybe she wrote that and I haven't included it, but that looks cool. And then I think there you go, that is my that is a beam or one of the pillars of my TARDIS that I've been making. And so this is just on my workbench, which it turns out my workbench snapped. So it's just like a sheer edge of my workbench. So it's not as long as it used to be. This is. I realised very early on that if I wanted to make a full-size TARDIS, then I needed to be a little bit careful of how much it weighed, and especially as if I wanted it to be in a public space, then I've got to be careful of how much it weighs, how sturdy it is, but also how easy it is to travel. So this is basically a hollowed beam, and so I've got a chunky bit at one end, and then I've got like these smaller chunks of wood that go down the middle of it, which kind of keep its structure and sturdiness. But then there's another kind of piece of wood to go on top of that, and that finishes the beam. That is just one of 8. So they slot into each other. So the bit that pokes out at one end slots into the other end. So technically, I could make a really, really long pillar, one giant pillar, but it wouldn't really make a TARDIS at the end of it. But this is just my design of kind of making something. So I'll share with you really. Basically, I made a TARDIS in 2007, I think. My first TARDIS was one that was smaller on the inside, and that was a joke that we did with a Doctor Who spoof video when I was in training, and that my mate Rich, he was pretending to be the Doctor, and the ingoing joke was the TARDIS was smaller on the inside, and it was also such a small. It was just like a speaker box that I'd made into a TARDIS. So it was only about 3 foot, and so he had to kind of like peel himself out of. And the joke was that it was small on the inside. But then a year after, well, we kind of did this as a show, and we kind of released it at our Christmas dinner, and everyone went, "Oh, this is fantastic! We should do another." And I kind of went away going, "We should do another. That TARDIS needs to be bigger." And so I kind of went to B&Q and just bought a load of wood, and then just kind of used cardboard as paneling, and I made a concertinaed TARDIS. So it was 2 meters tall, and it just folded down widthways, so it was still 2 meters by 1 meter and a bit. And as in when you laid it down, the only problem was it was such a big and bulky thing, and it was all in one piece, that whilst it concertinaed down, it got bashed and bumped. And for the 50th anniversary, a number of people borrowed it, and it was really impractical. And I had it for another in total, I think it was about 11 years, but it just kept on getting bashed and bashed and bashed and bashed and bashed and bashed, and I got rid of it when we moved to my latest house, and I said to Becky, I said, I need to get rid of the TARDIS, and she kind of went, well, you could always build another one, and I was like, yes, I can. And so so I've I know for this 60th I've wanted to build it. It may or may not be fully finished by then, but it'll be good to have. And I think that's what I guess I'll throw that on you about talk about tonight, because I guess we've only got 20 minutes left.
Do you come at this with joinery skills? What? So when you approach okay, so when you approach a craft project like this, and this time you're wanting it to last a bit and to withstand moving places, do you want it to be able to go indoors? Does it have to fit through doors?
Yeah.
So have you got pictures of the plans? Have you drawn this out and measured it? And
ish.
Are you just winging it all the way through, Mark?
I tend to do, yes. I will bring up something in a moment for you, actually. I'll bring up that. But it's interesting, because for me, the TARDIS plans that I've gone to, I went to Cardiff for the Doctor Who experience so many years ago. And so I went around with my good friend David. It was a 30th present for us. I can't remember. It was a nice present for Christmas, and both David and I had got these tickets for it, and we really enjoyed going down to Cardiff, but we enjoyed going around the Doctor Who experience. Oh, hello. That's interesting. Sorry, my computer has decided to go to full screen, and I didn't ask it to. That's better. And basically, I want to share a screen with you. Basically, I took loads of photos, and I took them with that in mind, that I was going to one day recreate a TARDIS using actual, representations of it. So here we go. This is a picture that I took however many years ago. Is it coming up? Is that being shown?
Really? Oh.
There we go. And so these are kind of proper schematics of the TARDIS, which again, I was just walking around. I was like, oh, hello. That's a lovely schematic. So I took photos of it. And basically it does the exact measurements of the TARDIS. And that is basically what I've been going to. However, what I will say is, as I literally tonight, as I've already made the pillars, and basically each part of the pillar is a meter, so I know it's going to be a meter high. I was quite surprised that as I put the base together, that it's going to be quite big. because I was like, I'm going to the proper schematics. I'm using this kind of stuff, and I suddenly realised that I was there going, oh, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm stretching out my arms, by the way, even they can't see, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is. And I remembered last time that I'd made this TARDIS, and it was a bit kind of slightly out of ratio to itself, and the door I had to kind of shimmy to get out of and things, and so I remembered at the time thinking I need to do this more realistic and better sizing, and so I have, and I'm just there going, oh wow, this is really big.
So when you move it, is it going to be take apartable?
Yeah. That's the whole point.
And then you jigsaw it back together every time you.
Yeah. And I think this is it. That the previous one was the bottom. It was basically the four sides concertina down together, and then there was a roof that popped on top, and that was fine. But again, it had to be over 2 meters long everywhere we went with it, so it didn't really fit in a car. It needed to go on a trailer, and it was just tedious, and it was really heavy and bulky, and it got bashed. Whereas this comes down, the pillars come down. There's going to be a base bit that kind of folds up, and then there will be a roof bit that I'm trying to work out still, but I think it's going to be like just slot together, and it should. And then the side panels kind of will slot in to each other, into the beams bits.
And you don't have joinery. Any joinery training?
I've got no joinery training. No, that is correct. But I have grown up on a farm. I have grown up and I've kind of used kind of tools, approximately. I think if you look at it carefully, it's going to show. But I found that interestingly that I remember when I was a kid seeing Doctor Who, and that was with Sylvester McCoy, that the TARDIS was always something quite cool. And that whole idea of being able to take you away with it in it. But also, I remember when I built my version of it, I basically left it in the corner of my reasonable sized student digs. And I had a light on inside. And I found it was really it felt quite cool just to have that in my room. But as to say, it made me feel all tingly seeing it. It's almost like having a Christmas tree up in your room, but all year round sort of thing. It was just like, there it is. And I had friends who would also pop in as well. And they would kind of like go, can I just look at your TARDIS? It's like, oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. And they walked on, and so it was kind of like, it was like an uplifting symbol. And and to be able to kind of tangibly touch something, to be able to be to have it there is quite sweet, really. And I quite like that idea of the Doctor might change, or the Doctor will change, but the TARDIS seems to be something
the TARDIS sticks.
Yeah, the TARDIS stays, and I quite like that appeals. And I think I've also joined a Facebook kind of TARDIS owners club or whatever. I've got various little tiny TARDISes that is worthy enough to join the club. But I'm there kind of going, I've got that itch to kind of recreate this again. And I have got a drama next month that somebody else has written that they wanted to use a TARDIS as a prop, and so that was my other kind of
very serious deadline.
That is my serious deadline. But we've got to walk through it, so I don't need to finish the back panel of it because we've got to walk into it and out through the back of it, sort of thing. So I can do it in stages, and so I'm hoping that in a fortnight's time, behind me there will be a front panel of the TARDIS, and then by the time I've done for the drama, it will be a more 3D one as well. So that'll be, I'm really looking forward to that.
There is something about hooking onto people's fond memory of something in order to consolidate information or tell a new story. And we've done that with All We Can this year by using a traffic light, not a traffic light, a lollipop stick that traffic people use. It's been really interesting to see how many people want to touch and hold my lollipop stick No
Yeah,
euphemism intended. The idea that what it used to do for them as children was keep them safe and interrupt the danger of the otherwise more powerful car. And so we've gone places and we've held the lollipop stick, and people have said, "Why are you holding a lollipop stick?" And so I said, I'm so glad you asked. Let me tell you, I want you to stop doing all the good you can. But because I've almost earned the right to speak to them and tell my story and tell why I'm there, because I've at least piqued their curiosity. Then they've come in really interested because they wanted something from me. And I've been hanging out with a glorious group of evangelists this week, all really passionate about sharing what works for them in terms of faith, and why they choose the life they choose, why they choose the practices they choose. And I think one of my go-tos will always be, let me be in a place of that kind of reminiscent, positive feeling with you, and then we exchange the story. And it's just really interesting that for some, a TARDIS does that. And also when you were talking about the idea of either reusing familiar scenes or reusing motifs in something that hook us in because it feels at home and familiar, in order to carry a new story and a new way of understanding things.
Well, this is it. I think these kind of props, these kind of they kind of unlock memories, they unlock feelings. And I'm just thinking this off the top of my head, really, that's how we can kind of relate to people, isn't it? And that we can have this shared experience of when you hear the and you see the TARDIS materialize, and you could have that even with the theme tune, but I think more so with this kind of this materialization of something coming into existence. But it could be any of these things that could be tapped into, whether it's a prop or piece of core memory of something that you associate with. Suddenly,
it's
has that
weird
power
how
to
memory
revert.
works in that way, because I've done a lot of work with people living with dementia, and we had a story of a gentleman who had been in the RAF during the war, and had quite advanced dementia, no short-term memory at all, couldn't remember what he'd eaten 10 minutes ago. And so they took him to Duxford Airfield, where he was treated like a VIP and got to revisit the aeroplane that he'd flown during the war. And on his way out, after this really amazing day, he went to the gift shop and bought himself a tie. And for weeks afterwards, he wore that tie down to meals and told everybody in the dining room about his trip recently to Duxford. And there was something that happened because it hooks onto his long-term memory with a new short-term memory, in a way that music also has a way to do. And I think if we really want to connect with people and share something that's meaningful, or share a new story, the idea of hooking on to where they were and where their fondness is, I think is really important.
I think it is, and I think I would want to also challenge that as well, because I working with churches and things like this, because I also get that association with kind of hymns or a building, or I see that in people who kind of attend church. They're kind of like, oh, well, I've always been here, and it's really nice to be able to be in the same place that they've been in for generations, or where their kind of grandparents used to be. I can definitely see that and get a sense of that. But I think sometimes, if we're not careful, we're always just living in the past with it. It's just it's almost like watching the old TV series that you've seen numerous times. There's something psychological there that kind of grounds you and that helps you in times of stress and otherwise, and that's fantastic. But I think it also has potential to be unlocked further, and I think sometimes done well. And I want to use sci-fi as that kind of example of using something like the TARDIS, or exploring a well-known enemy or a well-trodden theme, but saying, actually, let's go in this direction with it. And suddenly it can actually it can bring even more excitement, even more
Yeah.
even more to life. But it's got to be in trusted hands to do so. And I think that's
Yes.
sometimes that can sometimes be at the detriment to the film, or otherwise sometimes if it's not in the right hands, if it's not dealt with correctly or well enough or with love, I think actually it could go really wrong and drastically wrong and kind of really alienate that creation. Like Ghostbusters, the third one that they redid with the Saturday Night Live cast, it was awful, and it should have worked well in some respects with a female cast of Ghostbusters, and it's just like, actually, it didn't deal with it well. It didn't deal with the nostalgia well. Whereas Ghostbusters Afterlife, they gave the right nod in the right way, and they kind of respected what had gone before and had gone, you know what, we know what you want. And it was the son of the director who did it, and they've also got then this new film that's coming out as well, on the back of that, because they've dealt with it well. They're able to, the fan base have got behind it. It's been looked after well and preserved, and then being able to give new life to it. And I think that's the same way with faith, with fandom, with all this kind of stuff. We have the potential to look after and nurture something and let it blossom even further, or we can hold on to it rigidly,
Yes.
and just retain
and the alternative, we saw this living in Stevenage, which was the first new town built after the Second World War. And it was built as this idyllic 1950s one-car house. You can go from one side of Stevenage to the other without going on the road because it was so carefully planned. Yet it had very few cultural centres and only one church, other than the ones in the old market bit of the town. And what they found was, because people were lifted from the East End after the Blitz and then ended up living in Stevenage, where it wasn't their home and they didn't belong, the association they had with the parish church was broken. The apron strings were cut. Now, the parish church until that point had held story for people's high days and holidays, even if they didn't identify with a sense of faith or particular spirituality. The church was still holding their story. And so kind of 40 odd years later, Stevenage in the census had the highest number of people who identified as non-Christian and atheist, but it also had the highest number of churches on average, and the highest number of people who identified as Christian. It lost that middle ground of auto Church of England. But what happened as a result of not having somebody holding your story is that in order to say who they were, people started to say who they weren't. And we had every single right-wing political group represented in one of our political referendums, because in order to create that sense of identity without that storytelling, people had to go to extreme othering of people. And I think that just shows how important storytelling is as a spiritual practice, as a kind of identity practice.
No, I think that's I think sorry, you said about that grounding in that storytelling and in our keepers of truth. It reminds me of is it Ender's Game that has that, of people that go around the galaxy in the book, where there are people who are truth tellers who kind of go around and share the stories, and they are when people have died, they come in and they kind of are the eulogy readers. They kind of tell the truth. They are there for the truth and to convey truth, and to be honest and open. And I think there is something in society about that kind of retaining and holding on to the kind of narrative, I guess. And I think we can do that in many forms, but we've got to be really careful of how we do that, and when it gets overlooked, and when it needs to be kind of held carefully, because I think you can easily kind of misuse that gift, and neglect kind of people in it. And I think so it comes with a price, and this kind of cost of having to do it well. And I think,
Yes.
and just returning this to kind of sci-fi again, because it's an easy vehicle, it's like, it's the hands of the directors or the showrunners, of these kind of series like Doctor Who, where we've got to put our trust in these things and doing them well. Or when does a good film go to rest? When do you kind of say, actually, you know what, it's enough. And one of my other geekiness is about Terry Pratchett, and I love the fact that when he died, he had a clause to say that actually all my unfinished works, they're going to be run over. The hard drive is going to be run over with a steamroller, and so that it stops, because he didn't want his stuff to be misused or abused, and it's I
think
get
he's
that.
got an AI clause in there.
I'm not
In a
sure
way
about
John
that.
Lennon never thought to do.
Well, I was interested by the fact that they had the Watch, which is like the Night Watch BBC series, American BBC series, which was a bit quirky, and I wasn't at all into it. The Vimes character was fascinating, but again, the whole series wasn't good enough. But listening to is it Rihanna Pratchett, his daughter, saying, actually, you know what, the estate didn't have very much to do with that, and I was just like fascinated to know almost the backstory of saying, well, actually, for the individual, he said he didn't want his unfinished works to be used and abused, but what about his existing stuff? And I just found that fascinating.
Work to be repurposed.
And so again, it's that creativity, or and I guess that comes full circle, doesn't it, to the Grinch, because Dr. Seuss's estate, after seeing The Cat in the Hat, I thought they said that they didn't want to see any other live action Dr. Seuss films ever again, which is why when we have the Grinch a second time with Benedict Cumberbatch, it's a cartoon, because the estate had, I guess maybe they've, as the estate have decided, or dare I say, a production have come to them with enough zeros to change their mind, or in time they've kind of gone, oh, you know what, you cannot, I guess these estates can have a change of opinion. They're allowed to do that, aren't they? I guess that's why. And
there's that. I think it was friend of the show Luke that was talking about kind of audience ownership. We touched on it when we talked about the Wizarding World. That there's a point where stories become owned by the fans, and you think, what would have happened if the Brothers Grimm had put an embargo on anybody using their stories? Well, is there an original story that you can say, actually, this is my story, you cannot talk about I don't know, Hansel and Gretel ever again? You cannot retell this story, you cannot mention or reference this story. There's a point where it becomes part of culture, and ceases to be the author's sole property.
There
we go. And we thought we couldn't fill an hour, Mark.
Well, we did. It was fine. This is well crafted and well thought about.
With Becca and Mark.
But that reminds me, folks, if you are interested in Discord and chatting further, offline, online, or otherwise, then do please the Discord app, or log on. I think you can do it online on a browser. Join the Discord community. There is a link in the blurb, the doobie-doo, and it's there on the screen if you've got a pencil.
If you can be bothered to write down MH6JWMXR.
Exactly.
Is there a way of making that a fancier, snazzier name?
I mean, to be honest, just I don't know. Click on the link if you've got a digital
or
thing.
cybersten.com.
.co.uk.
.co.uk. You can follow the link there to Discord.
Yes, you can. Or if you want to be a guest as well, just get in touch with the show and share about your geekdom or fascinations and things. So no, please do join the conversation, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Is there anything left to say, Becca?
I'm just thinking, I think there's something about what we do here, because we don't say what geekiness is. In the same way, we might not completely lock down what it is to be a Christian or someone who is spiritual, but it's a practice. It's a life of faith that that leads to the fullness of life. Life in all its fullness is one where the practices all kind of join up with lots of little dots, and it's called practice for a reason. And I think one of the key things we're doing here is honoring story, and also practicing the art of curiosity. If that's our spiritual practice today, and just being curious. If you're geeky about model railways, and that's the thing that kind of gives you those tingles that Mark got when he had a TARDIS in his student digs. We want to hear about a model railway, not because that naturally is what interests us. Secretly, that's what Becca watches on YouTube. But it's we want to come along with your journey and be really curious about what that is. So there is no outliers when it comes to faith and geekery. Everybody is welcome, and we want to just be curious with you, and excited, and get the TARDIS like tingles. Come and join us.
Absolutely. Just on the back of my mind, Becca, have we decided whether we're meeting next week or not? I can't be around, but should we just mention it in socials?
We will meet next week if someone wants to come and hang out with me for an hour.
Cool. Yes.
If we don't get someone, then we'll just have a week off, and that's okay too, because life is about rhythms.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I've got a meeting that I can't get out of. Even though I would like to be here.
So let us know by Monday next week. You can come and have a chat with me, and share your brand of geekiness, and I will be absolutely delighted. We will have a quiz. We will have geeky news, probably, if I get my act together and do some geeky news, or Mark does. But yes, let us know by Monday next week. And if you haven't, then we won't.
Yes. And in a fortnight's time, will definitely be our Doctor Who special. And so we might have one or two guests. We might have a TARDIS behind us, or me anyway, or part of it, most of it, some of it, and prove my son wrong. No, and
cook a load of spaghetti and come as an ood.
Oh, very good, very good. It's just like
I can't do it.
Custard and fish fingers, though. That's
oh yeah, there we go. We could have a whole meal together. Yes, and a fez and a bow tie. Yeah,
I don't have a fez actually. Anyway, but yes, thank you, folks, for listening. Thank you for conversations and otherwise. Thank you, Becca, interested in the tingle, the TARDIS tingles. Is that what you said?
TARDIS tingles, yeah.
Yes. So bless you, folks. Thank you for coming along, for joining the conversation, and we will be back soon. God bless. Bye-bye.